Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I am Aaron, and this is the Inclusive Dad podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guest is Sue Day. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. It's great.
Absolutely. Why don't you just start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm today. I'm a use she her pronouns. I am a ADHD coach, um, and I run an author, and I run my practice is Pathways Forward Coaching. Um, and I got here after a long road of many different careers. This feels like my home career. This is where I belong. Um, and I appreciate the journey, but I am very glad to be here. And I have a large, busy household of with much neurodiversity and disability. So, and it's a busy, crazy, love-filled, nutty household. So, so that's sort of where I am right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What is your definition of inclusion?
Um, I don't know that I know a dictionary definition of inclusion, but and I suppose that it depends, I suppose, on the situation or where you are. But to me, I'll say as a mom first and a partner, I think inclusion means being understanding that people have different needs, and also that meeting those needs to the best of our abilities makes the household, our relationships stronger in every way for every person, not just not so for the people who are meeting the needs and the people who are receiving the needs being met. It's basically inclusion meets everybody's needs.
Right.
And I think that same thing, I think you can use a look at disability inclusion as being, if you're talking about physical disability, having wider doors and wider open spaces makes things better for everybody.
Right.
And having accessible for neurodivergence, which is what I work with the most, having a nice quiet space to be in, having using clear communication and direct communication, multimodal communication, that makes things better for everybody. So
Right.
it's really a win-win situation.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I live in Minnesota, so we got a clear snow. Well, more of the year than I would care to have to clear snow, but there's a graphic that passes around about inclusion, and it shows like in front of a building, steps and a ramp, and they're clearing the snow off the steps first. And somebody's in a wheelchair saying, "Well, if you clear the snow on the ramp, then everybody can get up. But if you're clearing it just on the steps, only I can't get up there." So it's a good reminder. Yeah, if we have wider doorways or bigger spaces to turn, that helps everybody. Or curb cuts. I mean, that not only helps people in wheelchairs, it helps parents with kids in strollers, or anybody with a walker or a cane or anything like that. So that's a great point.
Exactly. Yeah, and automatic doors, I think, are probably a
Yep.
really good example of that too. Like, who doesn't like an automatic door? It opens when your hands are full.
Yeah, it's interesting too. We went to a hotel last year, actually about this time, when it's the only hotel I've been to that didn't have an automatic door. And yeah, you're carrying all your luggage, and you're like, wow, this is different. I'm used to the door opening and not having to try to hold it and put my bag down and put my foot in there and get in. So yeah, it's handy for other stuff too.
Right. Hmm.
Is that kind of has your definition kind of changed over time, or how did you kind of get to that definition? You think?
I'm not sure I thought about it. Well, I don't think I thought about it that specifically
Sure.
until raising a kiddo, and also welcoming a bonus kiddo into my life that have. So my kiddo is neurodivergent, and then my bonus kiddo is both neurodivergent and physically disabled, and
Okay.
learning and leaning into how to best be a person for them, a mentor, mom, and was, really a big part of how I sort of became interested in the disability world and
Yep.
working in and really learning more about what that meant to everybody.
Sure. Were you growing up? Do you remember did you have any people with disabilities around you, or do you remember any what was your exposure to disabilities growing up?
Yeah, actually, and there's another when in my kid's life I'll tell afterwards, but we had kids. I grew up in high school in the 80s, and so grew up in the 70s and 80s,
Mm-hmm.
where there was a really strong disability inclusion movement going on, and we did have people of all abilities in our classrooms, and what we and it was lovely, and there were some really amazing kids that were there, and seeing the acceptance rate
Yeah.
of those kids was fantastic, but they weren't supported in ways that really, like, we had a kid who used crutches, um, and he had to have somebody walking around the school with him to
Mm-hmm.
open doors and stuff for him. So they weren't supported in a way that really fully included them. And so the infrastructure, and I'm sure that was true as well for people with more challenging mental disabilities as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. The reason I asked that question is I don't remember anything, anybody with a disability growing up, so my first kind of exposure to it was when my daughter was diagnosed with epilepsy and cerebral palsy when she was young. So I kind of had to learn it all. So yeah, I don't remember anybody in wheelchairs, the word disability, anything growing up. So
Hmm.
interesting.
That is interesting. Are you maybe are about a similar age to me, or
I was born in '77, so
okay, you're a little bit younger.
but yeah, I don't remember. I mean, we grew up in a small town too, so I don't know if that had, you just maybe less chance you would see somebody in a
Yeah,
wheelchair, but it's just I did and it didn't click because I didn't have like that personal connection to it maybe. I don't know.
right. Yeah, well, I guess a small town is different. I grew up
Yeah.
right outside of Boston, so.
Okay.
Mhm.
When were you diagnosed with ADHD?
I actually, strangely, in 1988,
Okay.
when girls just weren't diagnosed with
Okay.
ADHD. I struggled in school all my life, and I got good test scores and decent
Right.
um, marks on my assignments, but never did my homework or paid attention in class. And everybody ended up with very little. I actually ended up dropping out of high school with 370 something hours of detention because I didn't go to my classes, and every time you didn't go to your class, you got an hour of
Oh,
detention.
sure. Yeah.
And so that's when I got diagnosed. Was like, oh, there's something
Mm-hmm.
happening here, but it didn't really. It gave me the understanding of myself, but back then, nobody really believed in it,
Right.
and still people are challenged in believing in it because it's an interesting and sort of silent disability.
Right.
Um, and so I didn't actually really start paying attention to it and how it was affecting my life until I was 36.
Okay.
So a good 20 years after that.
Right.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write your book for adults with ADHD?
There is so much out there about ADHD right now. And a lot of it is um, not very factual, not very informed. Um, a lot of it is in these short videos that are sort of flippant. Um, and though I believe ADHD is a huge strength, um, and it can be a huge strength, it's also extremely um, dangerous. Actually, we have ADHDers. A big study just came out that ADHDers have a 9-year reduction in their lifespan, which is more than smokers.
Wow.
Yeah, it's if it's not managed well or managed, I mean, it just needs some management, then it can be a huge problem in a person's life. Um, and so all this flippancy and misinformation about ADHD is like, but it's a beautiful thing if you treat it, but you have to treat it appropriately.
Mhm.
And so I started writing this blog and becoming an ADHD coach, um, and as I did, I just sort of accidentally put together a book. My clients also, that have
Mhm.
ADHD and would often lose their sort of homework assignments after a coaching session. I always send some sort of homework afterwards,
Yep.
and they're like, "Well, can't you just put these worksheets together in a workbook and then
Mm.
just give us the whole journey of the workbook?" And so I did that, and as we did that and had my blogs, I just put them together and there was the book. So,
There you go.
yeah, just really wanting to help people explore the world of ADHD through a positive lens, but a lens that takes it really seriously.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, what part of the ADHD like shortens somebody's lifespan, or what?
Um, there's a lot. So
Okay.
there we have ADHD affects every aspect of our lives. It has tendrils in everything because it's how our brains work, right? So
Mhm.
different way our brains work. So with um, with that, we have sleep challenges.
Mm.
We have dietary challenges. We are prone to addiction. We have a lot of co-occurring conditions, which may contribute to that. A lot of depression and anxiety. We have a lot of people with Ehlers-Danlos, so we have loose joints. We just have
Hmm.
a lot of co-occurring health conditions as well. A lot of and what are they called? Autoimmune diseases. ADHDers have a really high rate of autoimmune diseases, and the saddest one of all. And you may need a trigger warning for this, but or content warning for this. The rate of suicidality is enormous
Hmm.
in ADHDers. It's we need to understand our brains in order to be able to move through this life,
Right.
and with that depression and anxiety and this brain that looks like, yes, you're totally capable of everything, you look like you're totally capable of everything, but you need to sort of accommodate and your brain and in order to be really successful. And so those folks that don't get that understanding um, and that those tools can be really challenged in life. And we have a huge incarceration rate. It's just, it sort of goes on and on. We get into unhealthy and abusive relationships a lot. It's just um, it can be really tragic if we don't work to understand ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, is there some pieces of it where it just your brain doesn't work? I mean, I don't like the word normal, but it's not. It's working differently than like the systems are set up. So you face a lot of, like you said, in school. Like, I just don't go to school. I don't like conform to the norm stuff. So you're
Mhm.
kind of struggling with trying to fit in, and if you're not fitting in, then there's consequences or that kind of thing too, probably.
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of that. I think there's one study out that estimates that by the time an ADHDer is 10 years old, they hear 20,000 more negative things about themselves
Holy cow!
than the standard, neurotypical
Right,
person. Um, and that's because we look capable,
right,
we appear capable, yet we just have a really hard, it's not a matter of won't, it's a matter of can't. We just can't make ourselves
right.
comply unless we, and we can. if we figure out the right way, right? We need to find our motivation. We can't just with external motivation just comply. And so I like to point out that this negative things that people say to us, about ourselves, it's often actually also a moral judgment. I know you can do it, but you won't. I
Right.
know you're capable. I know you can do this, but you're obstructive. Why are you like this? You're doing it to us. And I think, that happens in a lot of realms, but in ADHD, it's really almost 100% that the criticisms we hear about ourselves are moral judgments about ourselves.
Right.
And it just is devastating.
Yeah. What are some misconceptions or common misconceptions about ADHD?
There's a lot. There's some, gosh, I don't even know where to start. A lot of people think having ADHD means that somebody's not intelligent. And a lot of people think having ADHD means somebody is extremely intelligent, where they've found correlations with just about everything else. They have not done any correlation with ADHD and intelligence. It's just like doesn't have anything to do with intelligence.
Sure.
People think that ADHD is just like, oh, squirrel, just distraction. And it's just not true. We actually it says attention deficit disorder, right? Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We actually don't have a deficit of attention. We have a too much attention.
Okay.
And we don't have any filters on that attention. So our eyes, our ears, we see everything around us. We can't we can't filter that out. And so we're paying attention to everything all the time. It's actually exhausting. But then when we have the motivation to I actually call motivation an emotion. When we have the emotion, the positive emotion behind what we want to focus on, that actually can be negative emotion as well. If we have the right motivation, we can focus. Like, I don't know if you've seen somebody in hyper focus, but every once in a while, I'll have like 3 people right next to me, like Sue, trying to get my attention. And I'm like deep into something and I can't hear them. So I think we can have like this incredible attention as well when we have the emotion behind it. And sadly, that can be used for ill and for good. You can use that at the gambling table just as much as you can use that at the at your typewriter. So it can most of our strengths can also be sort of construed as weaknesses in various aspects of our lives, right? So so I think those are a few of the really big ones.
Sure. How has your journey influenced your approach to coaching?
All the way. It has coaching is a really personal act. Although I try very hard to take myself out of my coaching. I think the reason why I'm here and the reason why I have this focus now is because of my journey. I dropped out of high school. I did end up going to college. I went to 5 colleges. I tried to find the right way to, another interesting thing about ADHDers, we have this outsized a sense of justice and fairness. And so how that has affected my life is I've always been trying to find ways to improve the world in the best I can, like finding things that are wrong, figure out how to fix it. And I've always wanted that. So went to 5 colleges trying to find the right program to help me fix whatever I saw at the time was wrong with the world. I did have a little bit of a savior complex as a younger person. Really ended up in creating my own degree in outdoor education for social change. It was all about empowering youth to find their inner strength in outdoor settings, sort of like an Outward Bound type program, except with a different sort of social slant on it. And then I got scared away and decided to do something else. And so I went into farming, landscaping, business administration, legal administration, finally nonprofit finance management, and then got totally burnt out. Figured out it was my ADHD again after, I don't know, when I was 50 now. Figured out, I'm not treating my ADHD correctly. I need to do something more. Saw an ADHD coach. It was so powerful. Realized it's empowerment. It's fine. It's helping people find the power within to move their lives into the best place they want it to be in. And I sort of realized I came full circle. And after that, it's just like, here I am. I'm in this, I don't know, it's an interesting sound effect, but I just really feel like I've landed in like a soft, cushy place where, I mean, it's not easy. It's really hard, actually. But it is this place that's comfortable, and it's where I belong. And that's how I've gotten here. It's so amazing to see the cycle and the circle. And I know I needed to have those other adventures to get here. But I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are some practical strategies for managing ADHD that users can start using today?
I think the best thing to do is really learn to understand your brain, learn to find some support if you can, or learn about your brain in whatever way, but learn about it with the research, right? Don't listen to what they're saying on TikTok. Actually really learn what your brain is doing and why. It feels like a tall order, and I guess it is. But it's so important to understand where we're coming from, and remind yourself that you're not broken. You're just different. I actually find that a lot of folks find a lot of relief when they are in community with other ADHDers. And so finding a group coaching, or even an ADHD group near you, like in Meetup or something like that. So really powerful just to be with other ADHDers in a positive environment. Yeah, I think those are like the big picture things. And then there's so many like life hacks, like tips and tricks that I could go into them, but they're so different for everybody. Okay. So like sort of research what works for you, like try, like you can Google like life hacks for ADHD and try things until you figure out what works best for you. But understanding your brain and understanding your emotion behind what you're doing. So understanding why you want to do something is a really big, powerful motivation as well.
That's great. Is there a piece to all of this that is just worrying about what other people think of you? Is that a big struggle for people with ADHD?
It can be. Yeah, it can be. There are a lot of people out there that think that feel broken, that really took those negative things to heart. They really feel like they just can't do anything right. They feel really misunderstood. They feel like no matter what they do, they screw something up, they lose their keys, or they, forget to do something important, or, they drop a ball here, or they say yes too many times, and then they can't keep up with their commitments. They're late, whatever it is. We often feel wrong. And that makes us feel less than, right, I think. And then there's also a social aspect of ADHD where our brains just don't quite process social cues in the same way. And so perhaps we talk too much, or we talk too little, or we, meet somebody on the street and assume they're our best friend and just tell them everything about us. And it can just be, and we have this, I always think of like new things on the way. you may have heard of rejection sensitivity or rejection sensitivity dysphoria. We have a lot of emotional dysregulation, which is something people don't actually connect with ADHD very much. Our emotions we have big emotions. We're people who are a lot. And RSD is sort of, it's called rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And it's not clinically observed, accepted yet, but it seems to be a really powerful idea for a lot of ADHDers, where even people saying just the smallest thing about us or the smallest criticism can send us into this negative spiral of like, oh, I'm terrible. I did this awful thing. Oh, everybody hates me. And it's so hard to get out of. So yeah, there's a lot sort of balled up in that. But yeah, it makes social interaction and life pretty tough.
Well, I mean, like you said, if you've heard negative stuff 20,000 more times by that young age, I mean, it makes sense that even later in life, somebody, says something negative, you perceive it as negative, it kind of gets you back to that spot. So
yeah, it's really sad.
What advice would you give for someone struggling with their ADHD?
If you're really struggling, okay, so meds are helpful like 80% of the time. So if you can find a diagnosis and a good prescriber who will work with you to find the right combination or dose of medication, it can be super helpful. That being said, it's not the end all be all of ADHD management. And there's a lot of things that are fairly, well, I say simple. They're not that simple, because a lot of the things that feel easy, that seem like they should be easy to ADHDers, are where it's not. Like, I have a hard time brushing my teeth. It's just, I just can't remember to brush my teeth. But things like exercise and diet and sleep can really help. And those are all things that are really hard for ADHDers, but they can really benefit our symptoms. So if we can get up and get 20 minutes of aerobic exercise, it can benefit us for the entire day. If we eat a nice high protein breakfast, it can benefit us for the entire day. And if we can actually get a decent level of sleep, it can benefit us so tremendously.
Yeah. What is one tip you can share to help our listeners be more inclusive today? So just something anybody can do starting today to be more inclusive.
In the ADHD realm, if somebody says they have ADHD, just believe them. Everybody say, "Oh no, you couldn't have ADHD because you did this. You couldn't have it." Just believe them. It's okay. It doesn't hurt somebody else to believe that somebody has ADHD. And it's a weird brain difference. Some people in my life have thought I was really capable in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways I wasn't. So there's just, or I was challenged in a lot of ways. I was always capable, challenged in a lot of ways. It's a weird just difference. And sometimes people don't look like it, but it's a real struggle. So believe us.
That's a good one. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like what you're coaching, describe what it is, and then how people can connect with you?
Sure. I have a lot of sort of different levels of coaching. I try to, because I believe strongly that, and it's not covered by insurance, believe strongly that ADHD coaching is one of the best ways to work through and understand your ADHD. So I have a lot of different access points. I have my book. It's called ADHD Brilliance, A Journey into Your Extraordinary Brain, and which is a transformative journey through sort of to find your and this is what my coaching also does. So find your true motivations, your like figure out where your strengths are, find your passions, and move into like creating a toolbox to help you move your strengths and passions into of the life that you want to live. I like to say your favorite life. I don't want to say your best life because it seems judgy, but your favorite life, the one you want. And So that's what I do with my book. That's what I do with my coaching. I work with people to really find and understand their strengths, really embrace their strengths. We're good at throwing dirt on our strengths and burying them under a bunch of shit. People, excuse my language. Feel free to bleep that out. A bunch of stuff that people are saying about us, right? So find and expose our strengths and enjoy our strengths, and find the tools we need to get into our favorite place. And I also offer free group coaching every Thursday night at 5 Pacific time. You can find me on Meetup, and I do free body doubling, which we didn't get into, but it's a co-working. I do it virtually, and for 2 hours every Friday morning at 9, just to get some work done and with other folks. So that's a sort of where I land there.
Awesome. What's the best place for people to connect with you?
I think you could go to my website and find me in just about every way. There's a pop-up that asks you to sign up for my newsletter. I only send a newsletter every 2 weeks. Every once in a while, and I send out a special one, but mostly every 2 weeks. I won't spam you to death. And you can find me on Meetup, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm all over the place. But I think that if you sign up for my newsletter and just respond to one of those newsletters and say, hey, Sue, I want to talk to you about this, or sign up for a free discovery call. I offer everybody 45 minutes for free if they want it. And so sign up for a discovery call and just chat with me. No strings attached.
Awesome. Ready for the last question?
Sure.
Do you like spam lunch meat? Yes or no?
Mixed feelings. I think it's hilarious, and it actually can be somewhat delicious if prepared in the right setting and in the right way.
Okay, I'll put that as a yes.
Right. Everything is nuanced for me. You never get a yes or no answer.
Yeah, I live in Austin, Minnesota, where they make spam and where the spam museum is located. So I've been asking all my guests just to see what the answer is, and it's been fun to see like how people respond. Mm-hmm. You might be the first one that wasn't a strong yes or no, though. Usually it's real quickly a yes or a no. Usually it's not like you.
I am a shades gray person. There is always yep.
You're like, that's normal for me.
Yeah. Excellent. And then there's the Monty Python, which is what I thought of immediately, the spam skit, which was, fabulous.
Well, then you were talking about your newsletter like a minute before that and said I won't spam you, and I'm like, I'm going to ask her about spam in 30 seconds.
That's funny.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much, and I look forward. I thank you for doing what you do too. I mean,
you're welcome.
The ideas of inclusion for folks who have disabilities is strangely still rare for people, and people don't understand the positives in it. So thank you for doing everything you're doing.
Thank you. To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.